My friend, listen to me closely. There comes a time in every life when the ground beneath our feet feels like it's shaking, when every door is closed, when every friend is silent, when the tears fall without explanation, and hope seems to have packed up and left. You've prayed, you've pleaded, you've tried everything human hands can do, and yet your situation remains stubborn, unmoved, unchanging. But I came to tell you something today, not from myself, but from the deep well of divine truth. Trust God. He will fix your situation. You see, the battle you're facing is not proof that God has abandoned you. The silence you hear is not the absence of God. It is the preparation of something beyond your understanding. When God is working, sometimes it feels like He is quiet. Sometimes it feels like He is distant. But the silence of God does not mean the inactivity of God. Trust does not begin when everything is going well. Trust begins when nothing makes sense, when the walls are closing in, when the sky is dark, and when your heart whispers, "I don't see the way." That, my friend, is when you must lift your eyes and declare in the core of your soul, "God, I still trust you." You may be walking through a storm right now. You may feel like the wind is too strong, like the waves are too high, like your strength is almost gone. But remember this, storms don't stop the presence of God, they reveal it. You don't need to see a sign to know that God is at work. You don't need to understand the how or the when. You just need to know the who. And that who is God Almighty, unshaken, unchanging, all-knowing, all-powerful. God sees what you're going through. God knows the private pain that others can't see, the disappointments that broke your spirit, the betrayal that left you bleeding, the prayers you whispered at 3 a.m. when the world was asleep and your soul was screaming. Yes, God saw it all. Not a tear fell from your eye that escaped His sight. Not a single sigh went unnoticed. And if you trust Him, if you hold on, if you refuse to give up, God will take the very thing that was meant to destroy you and use it to build you. There is no situation too broken for God to fix. There is no wound too deep, no mess too great, no sin too dark, no past too stained. You are not beyond His reach. You are not beyond repair. You are not forgotten. You are not forsaken. God is the master of restoration. He is the healer of shattered hearts. He is the lifter of the downtrodden. He is the waymaker in the wilderness, the light in the darkness, the voice in the silence. Sometimes God will allow everything around you to fall apart so that you have nothing left to lean on but Him. Sometimes He will strip away every false comfort, every fake support, every illusion of control, just so that your trust is in nothing else but in Him. Not in people, not in money, not in your own strength, but in God and God alone. Because what God is about to build in your life requires a new foundation, one that is not made of sand, but of solid, unwavering trust. I know it's hard. I know your heart is tired. I know you've been waiting, praying, weeping. But God is not late. He's never late. His timing is perfect. And while you're waiting, He's working. Behind the scenes in ways you can't see, God is aligning every piece. He is orchestrating the outcome. He is opening the right doors, closing the wrong ones, shifting hearts, moving mountains, and preparing blessings with your name written on them. Do not let the devil convince you that your situation is permanent. Do not let your feelings dictate your faith. Your emotions may scream, "It's over." But your spirit must shout back, "God is still working." Do not judge the story by the chapter you're in. This is not the end. This is not the conclusion. This is just the valley before the victory. God has not brought you this far to leave you now. Every great deliverance begins with a season of darkness. Every miracle begins with a moment of impossibility. If it were easy, it wouldn't be a miracle. If you could fix it yourself, you wouldn't need to trust God. But because you can't, because it's too much for you, because you're exhausted and overwhelmed, that's when God steps in. That's when His power is made perfect in your weakness. God will not only fix your situation, He will fix you in the process. He will transform your heart, renew your mind, and anchor your soul. He will take that pain and turn it into purpose. He will take that failure and use it as fertilizer for your future. He will take the tears you've cried and turn them into a river of blessing that flows into every dry place of your life. But only if you trust Him. You must trust Him when the prayers seem unanswered. You must trust Him when your strength is gone. You must trust Him when others mock your faith and say, "Where is your God now?" You must trust Him when your own voice trembles with fear. Trust is not a feeling, it is a decision. It is a declaration in the face of despair that says, even if I can't see the way, I know God has one. Even if I don't feel it, I know God is here. Even if everything is falling apart, I will not let go of God's hand. Because when you trust God, you are putting your life in the hands of the one who holds the universe. You are placing your burden in the arms of the one who cannot fail. You are depending on the faithfulness of the one who kept you through every night you thought you wouldn't survive. And that same God who carried you through yesterday will carry you through today and tomorrow and every day after that. Don't confuse delay with denial. Just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it won't. God's promises are not empty. His word does not return void. When God says He will fix it, He will. Not in your way, not in your time, but in the perfect time and in the most powerful way. What you see as a setback, God sees as a setup. What looks like rejection is often redirection. What feels like a breaking is actually a birthing. What? And let me tell you, when God fixes it, He leaves no scar that hinders. He heals completely. He restores fully. He redeems totally. He doesn't patch things up. He makes all things new. He doesn't offer temporary relief. He brings permanent deliverance. But you must stop trying to control it. Stop trying to manipulate the outcomes. Stop trying to rush the process. Trust the process. Trust the waiting. Trust the silence. Trust the tears. Trust God. God does not need your help to perform His will. He needs your surrender. He needs your faith. He needs you to say, even if nothing changes today, I will still believe. That kind of faith moves mountains. That kind of trust opens the heavens. That kind of surrender brings peace in the storm. And when God brings you out, and He will, you won't even look like what you've been through. People will look at you and wonder how you made it. They will ask you what your secret was, and you will say, it was God. Not luck, not connections, not effort, not intellect, but God only. So today, bury the fear, bury the doubt, bury the anxiety, and rise with trust, rise with faith, rise with a quiet confidence that says God is fixing it even now. Don't give up 5 minutes before the miracle. Don't walk away when you're one step from the breakthrough. Don't let the enemy steal what God is about to release. Stand still and trust God. No matter how impossible your situation looks, God is greater. No matter how long it's been, God is still able. No matter how heavy the burden, God can carry it. No matter how dark the night, God brings the dawn. You are not alone. You are not defeated. You are not without hope. God is with you. God is for you, and God will fix it. If you could only see what God sees, you'd stop worrying. If you could hear what God hears, you'd stop crying. If you could know what God knows, you'd stop doubting. Because the same hand that created the stars is holding your life. The same breath that spoke the world into existence is breathing on your situation. The same power that raised up empires and tore down strongholds is working on your behalf. Don't let temporary trouble steal eternal truth. Don't let what you see in the flesh make you forget what God promised in the Spirit, what He said will come to pass. What He started, He will finish. What He allows, He will use. What He breaks, He will rebuild. What He delays, He will rebuild. But you must trust Him. Even now, when it feels like everything is falling apart, God is piecing it all together. Even now, when you feel forgotten, God is calling your name. Even now, when the night is long, God is preparing the sunrise. Even now, when your faith is faint, God is faithful. And let me tell you, the weight you carry today is not meant to crush you. It is meant to press you into deeper dependence on God. Sometimes the heaviest burdens are placed upon the strongest shoulders, not because God wants you to suffer, but because He is building something eternal within you. You may not feel strong, but God knows the power He placed in you. You may feel like giving up, but God is not finished. He allows trials not to harm you, but to train you, to forge you in the fire until you shine with unshakable faith. Trust God, because what you think is a delay might actually be divine preparation. There is a reason you didn't break when others did. There is a reason you're still standing after the storm. There is a reason your heart still believes, even with cracks in it. It's not because of your strength. It's because God is holding you up. You might have lost some things, some people, some opportunities, but you didn't lose God. And when you still have God, you still have everything. The presence of God is not always loud. It doesn't always come with lightning and thunder. Sometimes it's a whisper in the storm, a stillness in the chaos, a peace that defies reason. And when you lean into that presence, when you trust even in the quiet, God begins to move in ways the world cannot understand. God knows how to turn ashes into beauty, how to turn mourning into joy, how to bring hope out of hopelessness. There is no human explanation for the way God works. It's divine. It's beyond reason. When you trust God, you don't need to have all the answers. You only need one assurance, that God is in control. Not a single moment of your suffering is wasted. Not one trial is meaningless. God uses everything. The hurt, the delay, the silence, the waiting, all of it is part of His plan to strengthen your soul and position your life for a blessing that no one can stop. Some of you are in a place right now where it feels like everything is dried up. The people you counted on are gone. The doors you knocked on have closed. The opportunities you once dreamed of have vanished. But listen, sometimes God allows the river to dry up so He can lead you to a better one. Sometimes He takes you out of familiar places so He can reveal unfamiliar favor. If your heart is broken today, it does not mean your story is over. It means God is about to write a new chapter. You do not have to understand the process to trust the purpose. God is too wise to make a mistake, too loving to be cruel, too powerful to be limited by your circumstances. And when God is silent, it is never because He has forgotten you. It's because He is crafting something so extraordinary, so tailor-made, so glorious, that it requires divine timing and precise alignment. Trust Him. He is not working on a small solution. He is building something eternal. God is not only able to fix your situation, but He is also able to fix your vision. You see, the enemy wants you to focus only on what's missing, what's broken, what's wrong. But God wants to shift your focus to what's possible, what's growing, what's coming. When you begin to trust God, your eyes open to divine perspective. You stop magnifying the problem and you start magnifying the one who can solve it. You stop panicking and you start praying. You stop doubting and you start declaring, my situation is not bigger than my God. There is a peace that comes when you place your full trust in God, a peace that cannot be stolen by the chaos around you. That peace is not dependent on your situation changing. That peace comes when you change, when your soul anchors itself in the unchanging nature of God. God does not fluctuate with your emotions. God does not move based on public opinion. God is steady. He is constant. And when you build your trust on that rock, nothing can shake you. Let this be your declaration. I will trust God when the path is clear, and I will trust God when the way is hidden. I will trust God when the blessing is visible, and I will trust God when all I see is the burden. I will trust Him when the doors swing open, and I will trust Him when I hear silence. Because I believe that even in the silence, even in the shadows, even in the struggle, God is still speaking, God is still guiding. Some of the greatest breakthroughs in your life will come after your greatest battles. Some of the deepest wisdom you'll ever receive will come through the pain you didn't want to experience. And some of the closest encounters with God will happen when you are at your lowest, your weakest, your most fragile point. Because in those moments, you stop pretending and you start depending. In those moments, your prayers are raw, your heart is open, and your spirit is ready, and God meets you there, right in the ashes, and begins to rebuild your life with divine hand. So do not despise the season you're in. Do not curse the pain. Do not run from the trial. Let it draw you closer to God. Let it teach you to let go of what you cannot control and grab hold of the one who controls everything. Let it purify your faith. Let it refine your trust, because on the other side of this mountain, on the other side of this storm, is a testimony that will shake the gates of despair. And hear me, God doesn't just want to fix your situation. He wants to transform your destiny. What you thought was a delay is a divine detour, leading you to a place you never imagined. What you thought was rejection was redirection into greater purpose. You may have been praying for a repair, but God is planning a total restoration. You may be asking for a door, but God is building a palace. You may be begging for crumbs, but God has prepared a feast. But He requires your trust. Stop measuring God's power by your situation. Start measuring your situation by God's power. Stop telling God how big your problem is, and start telling your problem how mighty your God is. Your storm is not the final word. Your weakness is not the last chapter. Your failure is not your identity. God is rewriting your story with the ink of mercy and the pen of divine love. You don't have to force anything. What God ordains, no one can cancel. What God speaks, no man can silence. What God prepares, no thief can steal. What God begins, no enemy can stop. But you must stay in the place of trust, even when your hands are trembling, even when your heart is broken, even when your faith is barely hanging on. Stay in trust. Cry if you must, but stay. Weep if you must, but remain. Wait, endure, believe, and God will show you that He is still the restorer, the provider, the healer, the deliverer. And when it's all said and done, when you look back on this chapter of your life, you'll realize that the situation you begged God to fix was actually the situation He used to fix you. You'll see that every delay, every tear, every sleepless night was not a sign of abandonment, but a sign of preparation. God was not punishing you, He was positioning you. He was growing you, stretching you, molding you for something far beyond your current understanding. So keep trusting, keep hoping, keep holding on to that quiet voice within that says God is still in control. You are not at the mercy of fate. You are not the victim of randomness. Your life is under the authority of the Most High. And when you live in that truth, when you root yourself in that power, your soul will no longer be shaken by storms. Because your trust is not in outcomes, your trust is in God. And God, my friend, never fails. And I say to you now, with every fiber of urgency and clarity, stop pacing, stop doubting, stop trying to force open doors that God has kept shut for your protection. God does not need your panic. God needs your surrender. When your back is against the wall, when the clock is ticking, when everyone walks away and the lights go dim, those are not signs that God has left you. Those are signs that He is about to step in and do what no man can. You may be in the middle of a divine pause, a sacred moment, where God is testing not just your patience, but your position. Are you positioned in trust or trembling in fear? You must understand this. There is a difference between believing in God and trusting God. Belief is the acknowledgement of His existence, but trust is the confidence in His decisions. Trust says, even if I don't like the way this looks, I believe God sees a bigger picture. Trust says, even though I prayed and it hasn't happened yet, I will still bow my heart and say, your will, not mine. Trust is the highest form of worship because it declares that God is wiser than your worry, stronger than your struggle, and more faithful than your fear. Let your heart be still. Be still, not because the situation isn't real, not because the storm isn't raging, but because you know who rules the storm. The same God who holds the oceans in His hand can certainly hold your life in perfect peace. But peace is not found in the absence of problems. Peace is found in the presence of trust. When your soul is anchored in God, you can smile in the face of adversity. You can rest while others are restless. You can walk through fire and not be burned because you know who walks beside you, who watches over you, and who ordains every step. And sometimes God will break everything around you to rebuild what is within you. The very thing you think is destroying your life might be delivering you from danger. The door that slammed in your face might have saved you from destruction. The relationship that ended may have spared you from a future of misery. But you won't see that in the moment. It takes trust to look at a loss and say, well, this must be part of God's plan. It takes faith to walk through the shadows and believe there is light just ahead. It takes divine maturity to say, God, if you're taking it away, it must not be meant for me right now. Do not waste time trying to understand everything. Your understanding has limits. God's wisdom is eternal. What looks like confusion to you is clarity in the eyes of God. What seems delayed to you is divine timing in the hands of the Almighty. What seems chaotic to you is perfectly ordered in His sovereign will. Let that truth calm your heart. Let it break the chains of worry, and let it silence the lies that have been shouting in your ear. You don't need to know the why when you trust the who behind it all. God doesn't just want your praise when things are good. He wants your trust when things are uncertain. That's when real faith is born. Not when the sun is shining, but when the clouds roll in. Not when the path is clear, but when it disappears. And that's when God reveals Himself. Not always with thunder or miracles, but with a quiet strength that carries you when you thought you couldn't go on. That strength is not of this world. It's not from motivational books or feel-good speeches. It comes from knowing God personally, from walking with Him in the valley, and trusting that the same God who is with you on the mountain still walks beside you in the low place. So don't envy those who seem to be ahead of you. Don't compare your journey to others. Trust that God is writing your story, and every chapter has purpose. Some chapters may feel heavy. Some seasons may stretch you beyond your limits, but nothing is wasted. Every tear you cry is counted. Every battle you fight is recorded. Every moment of trust, even when your hands are trembling, is precious to God. And at the right time, not your time, but the right time, God will show up. And when He shows up, things shift. The pain you're in now could be the birthplace of your greatest transformation. The struggle you're facing now might be the stage upon which God displays His power. The door that closed may have been the mercy of God saving you from something that looked good but would have taken you off course. This is why you must trust Him, not only for what He gives, but for what He withholds. Not only for what He opens, but for what He closes. Not only for the miracles, but for the moments when nothing makes sense. And hear this, when God fixes your situation, He will do it in such a way that no one else gets the credit. No name will be praised but His. No explanation will satisfy, but God did it, and that's how He works. So that you know without a shadow of a doubt that it was not your wisdom, not your effort, not your charm or talent, but the sheer power and grace of God that brought you through. So lift your head, straighten your back, wipe your tears. You are not defeated. You are not alone. You are not without hope. God is not done with you. You may be in the middle of your storm, but you are also in the middle of His plan. And His plans never fail. He is the architect of your destiny, the defender of your soul, the provider of your needs, and the answerer of your secret prayer. Trust Him not only to fix what's broken, but to renew what's weary, to restore what's lost, and to revive what feels dead. You are closer than you think. Closer to the breakthrough, closer to the release, closer to the peace you've been seeking. But don't abort the process. Don't leave the waiting room. Don't rush what God is still refining. Diamonds are made under pressure. Gold is purified through fire. And your faith is being perfected in this exact moment. Yes, it hurts. Yes, it's hard. But it is holy. It is part of something greater than you can yet see. Let your trust in God be louder than your fear. Let your hope rise even when everything tells you to give up. Speak to your soul. Tell it to trust, to wait, to believe. Let your mind be still and your spirit be anchored. Because no matter what comes against you, no matter what storms rage around you, no matter how long the night has been, morning will come. Not because of chance, not because of faith. And when He moves with power. When He speaks, things change. And when He chooses to fix your situation, it will not be halfway. It will be full. It will be complete. It will be undeniable. Trust God. Not because it's easy, not because it's comfortable, but because it's the only way to truly live. Trust Him because He sees what you can't. Trust Him because He hears what you don't. Trust Him because He loves you more deeply than anyone ever could. And trust Him above all because He alone holds the power to take your broken pieces and build something beautiful that will not only bless you, but generations after you. There is a holy strength that rises within a soul that dares to trust God in the midst of uncertainty. It is not the strength of the flesh, not the pride of intellect, not the boasting of worldly wisdom. It is the quiet, unshakable power of a heart anchored in the truth that God never fails. That kind of trust does not need a guarantee. It does not demand a sign. It simply rests in the assurance that God is who He says He is, and He will do what He has promised to do. When you trust God, you are standing on sacred ground. You are declaring war against doubt. You are silencing the lies that have tried to define your destiny. You are saying to every fear, every worry, every whisper of despair, you do not have the final word. God does. Trust is not passive. It is a weapon. It's a spiritual fire that consumes fear and lights the path forward when everything around you is dark. Let me tell you something the enemy never wants you to realize. The moment you choose to trust God completely is the moment hell begins to tremble. Because trust invites divine intervention. Trust calls down the help of heaven. Trust releases the hand of God to move freely without limitation, without resistance. That is why the battle for your trust is so intense. That's why the trials are so relentless. Because if you ever truly believe that God will fix your situation, if you ever truly rest in that truth, you become unstoppable. You must decide today, will you live by what you feel or by what you know? Feelings are unstable. They change with the wind. But truth, God's truth remains unshaken. And the truth is this: God sees your pain. God knows your need. God is not confused about your future, and He is not intimidated by your problem. You may feel like your life is too tangled, too broken, too far gone, but to God, nothing is too hard. He does not ask how deep the pit is before reaching down. He simply reaches. Some of the most powerful miracles begin in the places we want to escape. That sickness, that failure, that heartbreak. It may be the very soil where your purpose is about to grow. Don't despise the soil. Don't curse the darkness. Because beneath the surface, God is planting something eternal. He is cultivating strength, character, wisdom, and discernment. These are treasures you don't gain in comfort. These are gifts you receive through the fire, but only if you trust Him through it. There are blessings that only come through the breaking. There are revelations that only come through the waiting. And there are victories that only come when you surrender. Not halfway, not when it's easy, but fully, completely, with every fiber of your being. God is not interested in partial trust. He is not moved by lip service faith. He responds to hearts that are fully yielded, hearts that say, even if I don't understand, I will obey. Even if I can't see the outcome, I will walk forward. Even if it costs me everything, I will still believe that God is enough. Trusting God doesn't mean you'll never feel fear. It means you won't bow to it. It means you'll rise in the midst of it and say, God, I choose you over my fear. I choose faith over frustration. I choose patience over panic. And in that moment, God pours supernatural strength into your soul. The kind of strength that keeps you calm when the storm rages. The kind of strength that holds you steady when others fall apart. The kind of strength that allows you to smile through the tears and declare, my God is still in control. Every time you choose to trust God, you are building a spiritual legacy. You are laying down stones of faith that your children will walk on, that others will be inspired by. Your quiet trust in private places becomes a thunderous testimony in the eyes of the world. You don't need to announce it. You don't need to broadcast your battles. Just trust God. He will make sure the outcome speaks for itself. And oh, how He will fix it. Not with a bandage, not with a patch, but with a complete restoration that leaves you in awe. God doesn't do halfway miracles. When He fixes something, He restores the years the pain has stolen. He returns peace that surpasses understanding. He removes joy that you thought was lost forever. He rebuilds in such a way that when people look at your life, they won't even recognize the ashes. It will all be beauty. But it begins with trust. Not occasional trust, not convenient trust. Relentless, unwavering trust. The kind of trust that says, I will not move until God moves. I will not make decisions out of fear. I will not compromise my values just to get ahead. I will not look for shortcuts. I will wait, even if it takes longer than I plan. I will trust God because He is faithful. Too many give up right before the breakthrough. Too many walk away when they are one prayer away from their answer. Don't let that be you. Don't allow the delay to deceive you. Don't confuse silence with absence. God is closer than you think, and what you've been praying for may already be on its way. Keep pressing, keep standing, keep trusting, because the moment you feel the weakest may be the moment the shift begins. And when God moves, when He finally steps in, it won't be subtle, it won't be small, it will be undeniable. He will silence every voice that doubted you. He will turn every weapon that was formed against you into a testimony. He will cause those who watched your pain to witness your promotion. And He will do it not because you deserved it, not because you were perfect, but because you trusted Him in the dark. Trust is the seed, and once it's planted, it grows roots that anchor your life, not in the shallow soil of opinion or circumstance, but in the deep truth of who God is, and when the winds blow and the rain falls and the world shakes, you will stand. Because your trust is not in the seen, but in the unseen. Not in what changes, but in what never changes. Not in man, not in systems, not in resources, but in the living, eternal, unchanging power of God alone. So today, choose to trust, even if everything says not to. Even if every voice around you tells you to quit, even if your own mind is tired of waiting. Trust, because when you do, you activate the very power that holds the stars in place. You connect your life to the infinite wisdom and mercy of the one who knows the end from the beginning. And when your situation is fixed, and it will be, you will look back and say, it was worth it. Every tear, every trial, every test, it was all worth it because God was in it. And if He was in it, then nothing was wasted, nothing was random, nothing was overlooked. Trust God. He has already written the end of your story, and it ends in victory, not because of who you are, but because of who He is. There are moments when life feels like it's unraveling at the seams, when all you've built is collapsing, when the people you counted on have vanished, when even the strength to pray feels beyond you. But listen to this truth that burns with eternal fire. God is never confused. God is never overwhelmed. God is never late. And even when you are surrounded by darkness, when your voice is hoarse from calling out, when your hands are empty and your soul is tired, God is still sovereign. His plan for your life is not diminished by the pain you are in. His promises are not forgotten just because the road has been long. Let your soul grasp this. The waiting is not wasted. That season where you feel unseen, overlooked, and forgotten, God is using it. He is shaping you, molding your character, stripping away what cannot stay in the next season. You may not see the outcome, but He sees the full picture. God's wisdom operates on an eternal timeline, not a temporary one. And if you could only see what He's sparing you from, if you could only glimpse what He's preparing for you, you'd praise Him even in the pain. And sometimes God won't remove the situation immediately, not because He doesn't care, but because He is drawing out a deeper faith from within you. Faith that isn't dependent on comfort. Faith that doesn't rely on results. Faith that clings to God simply because He is God. That's the kind of trust that causes the unseen to shake. That's the kind of trust that invites miracles not only around you, but within you. It transforms how you walk, how you speak, how you think. When you trust God like that, even your silence becomes a weapon. Even your stillness becomes powerful. Because God honors those who trust Him in secret, long before the breakthrough comes. Do not seek a temporary escape. Seek a permanent transformation, because when God fixes your situation, it will not only relieve the pressure, it will reveal a purpose, a deeper reason, a divine strategy that you could never have mapped out on your own. You are not just surviving this season. God is strengthening you for what's next. He is positioning you for influence, preparing you for greater responsibility, but He must know that you trust Him before the blessing. Anyone can trust when the cup is full, but who will trust when it's empty? Who will trust when the brook dries up, when the harvest delays, when the skies don't shift? That's where the real proving happens. That's where your soul either clings to God or collapses into fear. And if you choose to cling, if you choose to lift your voice and say, God, I don't understand, but I believe you, then that trust becomes the altar where divine strength is poured out. God does not ignore trust. He does not bypass faith. When He sees it, pure, unwavering, surrendered trust, He moves. Not always instantly, but surely, always in the right way, always at the right time. God does not fix your situation by human logic. He does it His way. And that's why you cannot rely on what you see. You cannot trust your eyes more than your spirit. Your eyes will lie to you. They will show you failure and say it is final. They will show you delays and call them denials. But your spirit, if it is grounded in trust, will tell you God is not finished. This is not the end. Something greater is being written. You may feel surrounded right now, pressure coming from all sides, financial, emotional, spiritual. But pressure is not always the sign of defeat. Sometimes pressure is proof that you're on the edge of something divine. When God is about to bring forth something powerful through your life, there will be resistance. That pressure is not to break you, but to birth something through you. New levels of endurance, new realms of insight, new waves of blessing. But trust must be the key that unlocks it all. Let your thoughts be captive to God's truth. Don't let fear build strongholds in your mind. Don't let the enemy rewrite your narrative with despair. Every time you feel the weight of doubt, respond with trust. Say out loud, God is in control. God knows what He's doing. God has not brought me this far to abandon me now. Say it even when you don't feel it, especially when you don't feel it. Because your words of trust are seeds. They grow. They take root. They create a garden of peace in the wilderness of confusion. And here is something else you must remember. God does not just repair situations. He resurrects what is dead. He brings dry bones to life. He speaks where there was silence and causes things to move. When God speaks over your situation, it doesn't matter how lifeless it looks. It doesn't matter how far gone it feels. If God decides to move, not even the gates of hardship can keep it from coming to pass. This is why you must stop consulting your situation for answers and start consulting God for clarity. Stop letting your circumstances define what's possible. Stop letting the opinions of people override the promises of God. Just because man says it's over doesn't mean God agrees. Just because they walked away doesn't mean God did. You may be rejected by men, but chosen by God. And the one who chooses you is greater than the world that misunderstood you. When the pressure increases, lean in, not to worry, but to God. When the timeline stretches longer than expected, hold on, not to panic, but to trust. When the enemy whispers that you are forgotten, lift your voice and declare, God knows me, God sees me, God is with me. Speak life where others speak loss, speak peace where others expect panic. And as you trust God through the unknown, you will feel a shift, maybe not around you at first, but within you. The peace of God will flood your soul. The fear will lose its grip. The confusion will start to clear, because trust doesn't just change outcomes, it changes you. And when God does what only He can do, and He will, it will be undeniable. The kind of shift that leaves no room for chance, no space for coincidence. People will ask how it happened, and your only answer will be, it was God. Because only God could have restored what was lost. Only God could have redeemed the years. Only God could have opened doors no man could shut. And He did it not just because you prayed, but because you trusted. So, walk forward, not in fear, but in expectation. Expect that God is working even in the silence. Expect that He is fighting battles you cannot see. Expect that He is weaving together every piece of your life into a tapestry of victory. Don't let today's struggle blur tomorrow's promise. Fix your gaze not on what is shaking, but on the one who cannot be shaken. Trust God, and He will fix your situation, not only in the way you desire, but in the way He knows is best. Because He is not just working to change your surroundings, He is working to change your soul. And when He is finished, you won't just come out of the fire, you'll come out refined, restored, renewed, and stronger than you've ever been before. Keep trusting, keep standing. The hand of God is upon your life, and nothing can stop what He has set in motion. So now I say to every heart that is listening, stand up within your soul. Rise not with the strength of man, but with the power of faith. Shake off the dust of doubt, cast away the garments of fear. You were not created to live in despair. You were not formed from the dust to walk defeated. You were shaped by the will of the Almighty, destined for divine purpose, carved out of eternity by the hands of God Himself. And if that God, who split the seas, who commands the winds, who names every star, if that God is with you, then who or what can truly stand against you? Let this be the moment where your soul shifts, where your tears turn into fuel, where your silence becomes sacred strength, where your pain transforms into purpose. Whatever you've been carrying, lay it at the feet of God. The weight, the worry, the regrets, the questions, release it all. God does not need your perfection. He desires your surrender. He does not require your explanation. He waits for your trust. And when you finally let go and give it fully to Him, the heavens begin to move on your behalf. Search your heart. Look deep within. What are you still holding on to that God is asking you to release? What part of your life are you trying to control, fix, or force? Let it go. Trust does not mean you stop trying. It means you stop trying alone. Invite God into the middle of your mess. Let Him take the wheel. Let Him shape the outcome. Let Him carry the burden. You've been walking in your strength long enough. Now walk in His. Let every breath you take from this moment forward be a declaration. I trust God. I trust God when it's dark. I trust God when it's silent. I trust God when nothing makes sense. I trust that He is working behind every delay, weaving purpose through every setback, writing redemption into every broken chapter. Even when I don't feel it, God is near. Even when I can't see it, God is guiding. Even when I'm weak, God is strong. Let the fire in your heart be reignited. Let the doubts melt away under the weight of truth. You're not forgotten. You're not forsaken. You're held, led, known, and chosen. And the same God who began the work in you will finish it. Not in pieces, not in fragments, but in full, perfect completion. Because God does not start what He cannot finish, and He does not promise what He will not fulfill. So take this moment right here and make it sacred. Let your heart whisper what your mouth may be too tired to say. Let your tears speak the surrender your lips cannot form. And in that surrender, feel the shift, feel the freedom, feel the peace that doesn't make sense. That is the presence of God. That is the reward of trust. Walk away from this moment with your head held high, not because of who you are, but because of who God is. Let your life be a testimony of faith, a vessel of courage, a light in the darkness. And when others ask how you endured, how you held on, how you made it through, let your answer be simple, pure, and powerful, because I trusted God. That is your calling, that is your anchor, that is your legacy. Trust Him with all of your heart, and watch what only God can do.